everyone. Welcome to another episode of Intellicide, where intelligence has gone to die and we find out who murdered it. And I'm Anthony Gentry, and my co-host here is Kyle Pominville. And today we will be talking about using AI as a tool to help out with game mastering, or GM as it's known.
Yeah, I have been using it very successfully in my campaigns to enhance. I'm very lazy, so I'm the lazy DM, right? Have you ever read the book The Lazy Dungeon Master by Sly Flourish?
And no, I haven't read it, but I have seen it.
So I utilize some of the concepts in that. Basically what he's talking about in that book is the bare bones of a narrative, right? Like what you need in order to have a story, an antagonist, a protagonist, and a helper character, someone to drive the story along. So like basically for each session, in order to create a narrative that keeps the story going, you need 3 NPCs. And that's kind of his thing in his book, is to use cards and to write everything on like 3x5 cards. So it's very simple. Exactly like that. So what I've been doing, honestly, is utilizing ChatGPT and other tools to help enhance it. It's really a matter of like you had mentioned before, you've tried it, but with limited amount of success. I think the new industry that's really come out just in the last 6 months to a year since they released these natural language AIs is what's called prompt engineering, right? Where basically you have to write the correct prompt in order to get the response that you're looking for.
Right. Yeah, I think that's one of the problems with the results that I was getting. And I found that changing the language of my inquiry has really helped in the response that I've gotten. But I would still like to enhance the feedback that I'm getting from the AI in regards to this, to use it effectively as a tool. Because right now, I mean, it's giving me some things back that I can incorporate, but a tool is supposed to help you and make things easier. And right now it's still where I am more of the creative influence and using what I imagine rather than the AI helping me to create a viable campaign or session.
So let's start at the basics. One of the things that you really need to do, so ChatGPT, this is the thing that people need to understand. When they talk artificial intelligence, there's no real intelligence there.
Correct.
Right? Like it's not sentient. It can't think on its own. Absent a prompt that you give it, it's not thinking right, like on its own. It is literally an algorithm for predicting the next word. In fact, the guy at Google who originally created this just quit Google this week. And he actually created the original algorithm. When you go to the Google search bar and you would start typing something, and it would start autofilling and predicting the rest of it. That's the original algorithm and all he did is he took that, and it was originally trained on your previous search history. So it would try to predict what the next thing would be based on your search history. And then they iterated. It was on like everybody's search history. So then it became like you would start typing something, and you would see like the rest of the predicted response would be like what it saw from most other people's searches, right?
Right.
So then what OpenAI did is they basically took that and they trained it on the internet. And they gave it more and more information to be able to then predict what they found. So the reason that it didn't become popular until ChatGPT 3, right, the third version, was before it became popular, is because the first 2 versions were trained basically on the full internet. And so it was extremely racist and full of very wrong information, because that's what's on the whole internet. So they had to really narrow it down and limit the scope of what they were training it on. And then by version 3, it was a lot more reliable.
Right.
A lot less racist and bigoted. So when you're using it, the real key is you need to give it the expectations of what you're looking for up front.
Mhm.
So when I start a prompt, usually what I'll do, so I'm not looking for it to write everything for me, right? When I'm looking for
Right.
creative help. So what I'll do is I'll start. So, and this is the other thing, there's several AIs out there right now, right? Chat GPT is the one that's got the most press. Google also has their own that I've experimented with called Bard. The reason, and they both have their uses, honestly. ChatGPT is really good for the chat part of it, in that in each thread that you create, it remembers what was said before, which means that you can reference things that it said before, and it will remember that, which is really good for helping with writing assistance.
Make sure you elaborate on how or why it remembers what you've done, what you need to do to get that remembrance.
Oh, well, it's actually it's built into Chat GPT. Here, if I can.
Right, but if I just go to Chat GPT and type in something and then close my browser, I can't rely on it being there unless
you can.
Oh, so it just remembers everything, or do you have to create an account?
Well, let me see if I can share my screen here and show you what I am talking about. Here we go. Can you see this?
I can.
Okay. So this is Chat GPT. And along here, you see it's got different topics. These are different chats. So within the confines of each one of these, it remembers what was said. And that's how it works by default. And whenever you hit a new chat, it'll create a new one and it'll remember what you say in here. So when
yeah, but you need an account though for that to happen, right?
You do. You have to sign up with OpenAI in order to get an account and use it. You don't have to pay though. There's a free. The normal accounts are free. You can upgrade to their Plus, which will let you use GPT-4, which is way more advanced. It can do a lot of things GPT-3 can't. But for this, for my purposes, I'm using 3 with a free account. So,
well, yeah, I just wanted to make sure that everyone knew that unless you create an account, you can't just go there and then expect those results that you see on the left where remember what you just said before.
Right. Yeah. You have to create an account, you log in, and then within your account, it keeps these. So, like for instance, I use a campaign writing assistance thread that I use for DMing. So, but when I'm starting, what I'll do is I'll use it once for coming up with ideas for a campaign. I've used this several times. I've iterated through this where I've created some one-shots and then I've used it for building a campaign within Dungeons and Dragons 5e. So what I'm doing when I first start is I'll tell it, like, let's say I want to write a new campaign.
Right.
I'll say act as a writing assistant. And Dungeon Master for D&D 5e. By doing this, you're letting it know it's going to actually. So the difference is if you tell it act as a writing assistant and game master, and you don't specify what system, it will use all available role-playing system rules, and it kind of jumbles them together, and you can end up with some weird stuff. If you specify the system you're using, then it sticks to basically those rules.
So will it go out and search for that system rule?
It's actually already got it. So that's part of the thing, that it's already been trained on the internet. So it already knows 5e. It already knows what the rules to D&D 5e are. You can train it. So if it does give you wrong information, you can train it. I'll show you that in a second here. But when I'm first starting out and I'm setting up like how I want it to act for this chat session, I'll give it its role. And I say, act as a writing assistant in Dungeon Master. And then you give it the parameters of what you're going to do. Like, I want you to give me 5 potential campaign plots. Right. Wait, there's 5 campaign plots.
Okay.
So, when I do this, because it remembers what I already told it to act as, everything we say from here on, it will remember. So it will give me some prompts for ideas. Once it does that, I can say, okay, I like this idea, expand on it, and it will give me more information about it. And that helps me build like the basic plot of my campaign. Let's say I want to do like a one shot, right? The Lost City of Dwarves. A long forgotten city of dwarves has been discovered deep in the mountains. It's guarded by dangerous creatures and traps. This would be a decent one shot, right?
Right.
Like, so if I like that idea, I can tell it, expand on it and give me more details. Yeah, actually. So,
well, yeah, but
then I'm going to paste back in.
Oh, okay.
What it said, so that it knows exactly which idea I'm talking about.
Okay, got it.
And then it'll expand on that and give me more information. So one of the things I've discovered through doing this, so one of the things I do when I'm managing an active ongoing campaign is I will actually, so I use it to create the first plot, right? But then after the session starts, I'll have a session 0 or a session 1, and then I'll do session notes where I'll write down who all the players are, like an elven sorcerer, a dwarven barbarian, whatever, and I write down who all the players are, and then I write a summary of what happened in session 1,
right?
And then I ask it to give me potential ideas for where the story could go in session 2. And if you give it enough information, like when I give it enough information about my characters and I say like, this character has a background as a sage researcher, and they have a burning question from a colleague that they're trying to answer. And I tell it, give me 5 potential ideas for what that question could be related to the plot of the story. Right. And so it'll give me ideas related to the plot that it's already given me.
Right.
Right.
Oh, that's awesome.
And using that, and then what I'll do is after each session, I'll feed that feedback loop back into the AI and tell it, this is what happened in session 2. Give me some ideas for where it could go in session 3.
Right.
And it gives me ideas. I'm like, ooh, I like that idea. And so it's not writing it for me, but it's giving me ideas. And it's
based on the information that you type in after the sessions.
Yes. And so it all kind of ties in. And what's cool about it too is that it'll give me, if I tell it, I like to give my players more than combat, role playing, and puzzles and riddles, things like that.
Right.
So it will give me opportunities based on who the characters are. So for instance, if I have a druid in the party, it includes more wild animal encounters and things for the druid to do.
Okay.
Like if you've got someone who's like a rogue, it includes more locked doors and locked chests and stuff and things for them to do.
Right.
So it's things like that I find using this helps create a more, this is the type of thing that honestly a human could do, but you would spend a lot more time writing this yourself and coming up with all these ideas yourself. Whereas this, all it does is it's acting as an assistant and speeding up the whole process for me to write it.
Right. Yeah. And that can save you time or whatever. Yeah.
Yes. Now, the thing about, so this is really good for the interactive feedback loop of information, right? And coming back with new ideas that relate to the old ideas.
Right.
Google also has an AI that's called Bard. And this is Bard. Can you see this?
I can.
So the difference with Bard is it doesn't remember what you said before. So you have to continually tell it, act as this, here's the information, give me a response based on this. It won't remember what the original subject of the thread was and how it's supposed to be acting. It only remembers that role that you give it for that response.
Right.
But the thing I have found with Bard is it's very polished. It'll give you very polished results. And what it's really good at is like if I want to generate homebrew magic items or homebrew monsters,
Mhm.
it's actually really good at coming up with some of this stuff. A homebrew monster for D&D 5e, a CR of 5.
Mhm.
Wait a minute. Okay, give me the stat block and details for a homebrew monster for D&D 5e with a CR of 5.
Okay.
And usually the responses from Bard are a little more polished, like looking than they are from this. So yeah, here we go. Shadowbound. And it gives you, because you told it D&D 5e, it knows all of the stuff that goes along with that. So it gives you the type, size, armor class, hit points, detail, skills. It gives you the whole thing. And it's usually pretty polished. And even look at how it formatted all of this.
Well, okay. And that looks good. You're right. The actions and descriptions and everything. Yep. So let's try the system that I frequent in.
Okay, so real quick, I just want to show one other thing. So one other thing that I do to enhance my games is I use these tools to help me come up with interesting monsters, traps, magic items, stuff like that. But then I'll also use an image generating AI. So you take the description from this, right? Large black canines. So I take this and then I go to Midjourney. Midjourney is an image generating AI, right? Okay. And then I take that description and I paste it into Midjourney.
Okay. And make sure you post the URL for that one too.
So Midjourney is a little different. Midjourney is actually something it's an add-on for Discord. So it's an app that you add to Discord.
Okay.
But this will then generate, based on the prompt I gave it, it'll generate some images that I can then use to iterate on those images and come up with something that I can show the players or add. So I've created multiple, like in D&D Beyond, I've created multiple custom monsters and magic items that I then publish to the community, and that other people could use them in their campaigns.
Now, are there any image generating AIs that aren't, add-on for a program? Just like
I mean, so Midjourney's one, and you'd see like this actually came up. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
Right.
There's also let's see here. The other one is Dolly, which this is also from OpenAI. So this is the image generating AI from the same people who came out with ChatGPT.
Okay.
Now, if I were to take the same description and put it in Dolly, it will also give me images.
Okay.
I have personally found that I tend to like some of the images that I get back from Midjourney better. But we'll see. Yeah. See, I mean, this is giving me.
Yeah. I mean, it's just basically dogs. It looks like.
Yeah. Right. I mean, it didn't have the glowing red eyes and all the other stuff so Dolly, I mean, it'll generate images, but I found that it's not as good as the images that I get from Midjourney.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I can see why you would, may be disappointed as a GM when you're looking for a monster and these look like household domestic pets.
Right. Yes. So yeah, it's yeah, I mean, even that first one is a bunch of different images of it, which is, but that's basically the idea, is that I use this as an assistant to help me in the creation of my campaigns, either a one shot or an ongoing campaign. And I used it a few times to create one shots, right? And then I got the process of using it to help with the writing and the images and stuff. And then I started a campaign, and that's where I discovered the iterative quality of ChatGPT and being able to give the feedback loop of what happened in previous sessions, to generate the ongoing plot for the future sessions. So what were you? So the system that you use?
I use Hero Games, 5th edition.
Hero Games.
Yep, Hero Games 5th edition.
Okay, let me see here. Okay, so we're in a new chat. We're going to tell it basically the same thing. Act as a writing assistant and game master for Hero. What's systems?
Yep, Hero Systems or Hero. He tried Hero Games. Matter of fact, yeah, I don't have my book here. Yeah, this is the 6th edition, which I don't like. So,
Hero System 6th edition. Okay, for Hero Games.
Yeah, 5th edition is fine.
Okay, let's try Hero System Games 5e.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. So the interesting thing that I found about this, the whole point of the AI is to give a response, right? Like the whole algorithm is based on predicting the next word, right? And every time you give it a prompt, it has to respond. It has to give you something. So it's yeah, it's one of the things that helps, I think, with this is that no matter what you say, if you don't give it enough information, it's still going to respond. And sometimes you got to stop it because it starts going off on a tangent if you didn't give it enough information. So 5 ideas for campaign plots. Now, what is the difference? I'm honestly not familiar with Hero Systems. So
Hero Systems is a little bit. I believe Steve Jackson did work on Hero Games or Hero Systems before he created GURPS. So it is a universal role-playing system. And you then can have, you can buy the different types of system manuals, whether it be Star Hero, which I've done. My favorite is particularly Supers, superheroes.
Okay, so instead of just being like fantasy, they've got it's you have to buy an add-on to do like the superhero or the space.
Yeah, this book right here is just basically the overarching, rule set for, and you can customize it. You don't have to buy any of those other separate add-ons if you have the imagination. Or it's an aid to help you customize the campaign, whether it be futuristic, whether it be supers, whether it be as you say, fantasy hero or Dungeons and Dragons.
You can actually see that in the responses it gave here, because it says it's doing Hero Systems games, and it gives you ideas that are not only fantasy. It gives you not only, but it also gives you like time travelers, and monster hunters.
Right.
Which, so yeah, it knows what system you're talking about and gives you ideas then appropriate to that system.
Right. Yes, sir.
So yeah. And then if you wanted to flesh out like a campaign in that system, you could ask it for more details on one of these.
Right. That's awesome. I mean, if you can use it to create NPCs, which, and that's what I've done, just how you created that monster. If I can use something like that, give it a point total, and say, hey, come up with a NPC, of this many points and this adds.
So I'm going to give it, I say, I like this idea. Give me 3 NPCs related to this plot.
Right.
And then I give it the feedback. And it's going to give me 3 NPCs that I can work into the narrative.
Oh, the Chronomancer.
Chronomancer. And the Time Police. So you've got protagonist and antagonist and like a helper character, like,
right.
You've got, so then using this, it lets me, and the funny part is I have used this on the fly in campaigns. I just recently, right? Like I'm running this campaign and I had written out like what the session was going to do, like where I had, so I written, when I did the first initial campaign building, I had it like create this whole kingdom. And I also
Uh-huh.
had it like give me all the towns in the kingdom. So it
Mhm.
created a list of like a dozen towns and descriptions on all of them. And so as I go through the session,
Mhm.
I've got already this world built, right? And I know
Right.
it knows which towns they've already been to and what happened there. And
Mhm.
so when I tell it, give me, so what happened was I had the session that was already designed and plotted out, and they were supposed to go to this one town. Well,
Uh-huh.
like, no, we don't trust it. We're going to go over here instead. And so I'm like, oh shoot. So I told it like, give me 3 NPCs for this town here that are related to the plot of the campaign. And so it
Oh,
gave me 3 people in that town that they could
wow.
interact with that would drive the same plot forward.
And you know what, that's a great tool to have, because as a game master, right, you can't always predict the actions of the PCs. And
Yes.
so, right, instead of having a sandbox game, which I know some people like that, but as a game master,
Oh,
it's
it's
very hard to just have an open ending where you can do anything. So
right.
this is a tool that can help you when the PCs take a course of action that you haven't planned for,
Yes.
to maneuver on the fly.
Yeah. Now, a lot of what people are talking about is like AI taking over and doing it instead of humans, right? Like
Uh,
there was one of the things that when the Hasbro Wizard of the Coast open gaming license thing controversy was going on, one of the rumors going around was that Wizard of the Coast was looking into creating AI dungeon masters,
mhm.
which a lot of people have talked about that, and I have experimented with that on here. The issue with it is the AI is programmed to give you a response, but it's not always going to be a good response. That's why I ask for multiple options and I choose which option to go with, because as a human, it's easier for me to keep this narrative going in a way that makes sense.
Well, right. And one of the things that I've received when doing an inquiry is it'll say, "Hey, I'm not creative like that."
Mm-hmm.
So right, humans have the ability to imagine things that haven't even been created yet.
Right.
Someone had to be the first one to come up with the idea of werewolves and vampires.
Right.
So an AI cannot, come up with an idea that hasn't been created, because what it, like you said, it's been programmed with something that a human has already put inside of it.
Right.
And so it's using language, it's using terminology and phrasing that a human has already put inside of it.
Mm-hmm. It's basing it off of what humans have already done, which is, it's funny because like the writers strike that's going on right now, like people are talking
Uh-huh.
about, like artists are talking about AI replacing human artists and AI replacing writers. And you just hit on the main problem with that. All AI can do is iterate on
Mm-hmm.
what humans have already come up with and what it's seen. You will, if they were
Correct.
to stop all human writers from now and just use AI, you would never see an original script again, because all
All right.
you can do
Right.
is iterate on what it has already seen.
Right.
You
I mean, listen, if you think dialogue is bad in television shows now, imagine
exactly,
a AI writing it.
it's terrible. And you might have seen, like,
Right.
there's actually a couple examples out right now where somebody tried to use AI. They created a beer commercial and a pizza commercial, and they're terrible.
Uh,
They're awful. I mean, it's kind of like along the lines of what a beer commercial or a pizza commercial would be. And it's literally, it is literally like an alien's concept of what a pizza commercial would be,
right.
because
Right.
it's not human,
Yeah.
it doesn't understand humans. And so it says weird things that's, seems pizza
Well,
commercial-ish.
I haven't seen it, but just the you bringing it up makes me imagine some of those progressive commercials with Flow, where they are intentionally written the way they are, and
Right.
it's almost like a parody, but it sounds like that, right,
Those are
like the
better,
AI
actually.
is writing that.
It's an unintentional parody. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
So yeah, it's one of those things. I think that these tools are going to help a lot of people. Like these tools in the hands of real writers can help
Right.
create better shows and better movies.
Right.
But by themselves,
Mhm.
they can't do anything by themselves. You need the
Right.
human imagination and judgment in on top
Mhm.
of that in order to really make it make sense.
Right. You know what? And that gives me so many ideas on how to use them for, like you said, campaign writing.
Mhm.
You know, you can use them as to assist you with writing a book.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
and I've done
all
that
kind of
too.
uses.
I've
Yes,
published
sir.
several children's books based on that.
Yeah, right. You have?
Yeah, yeah, I have.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I have a
That's awesome.
series of children's books out there on Amazon Kindle.
Really?
Yeah,
Have
yeah.
they
I
sold
based it.
anything?
So I based it on. Yeah, I've made a few sales.
Oh,
I based
man.
it the first. I have
That's
a
awesome.
trilogy based on my dog Callie. My she was she's behind me over here. The little black dog named Callie, and I based my first
Uh-huh.
series on that. And that was basically when AI first came out, and I was first learning to generate images with
Uh-huh.
it. They're basically picture books for kids.
Now let me ask you, does it format you created a Kindle book, but does it put it in the right format for Kindle?
You have to do that yourself. It'll create
Okay, you have to
you
do
can
that
use the
yourself.
AI to create the images, but you got to take those
Right.
images and put them in the right format. Which is
Okay. Okay.
that's the hard part, honestly, because
Right.
knowing in order to publish a book, there's a whole bunch that goes into it that I know beforehand, like minimum number of pages for certain types of formats and stuff like that. So
Mhm.
it's not
Okay.
super easy, but it's
Well,
totally
you know
doable.
what?
What's that?
We're gonna have to talk this offline, man. I'm really gonna have to hit you up on how you did that so I can finally get my book published.
Sure. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think it's going to be a big deal. Obviously, in my opinion, I've been saying this since, December of last year when I first started, or like Thanksgiving of last year when I started playing with AI. It
Mhm.
reminds me of when terms of like game changers, right? Like I remember when the internet came
Mhm.
out and I was going around telling people like, this is going to change the world. Like, you don't even understand. Like I remember telling my parents and my friends, this is going to change the world.
Uh,
The world is not going to be the same after this. And
let-
this is, I
Kyle,
think,
there are a
the
lot of
same.
people that are scared. They're
Yeah,
scared
yeah,
of what you just said, that
hmm
it is going to change the world.
yes,
And I've had discussions with people like, hey, and a lot of the technologists, as you call them, have hey, we should put this on pause for 6 months, etc.
right,
And I'm sorry, but when you think that places like China, Russia,
hmm
they're not going to put anything on pause for 6 months in regards to
right,
AI.
hmm
We already say that America is behind in so many other things.
right.
Putting that on pause and the development
So
would just put us even further behind.
I agree. One of the things that I think will help ease fears, at least it does for me, is the fact
Mhm.
that the AI, like I mentioned in the beginning, there's no consciousness there, right? Like when
Mhm.
absent a prompt that you've given it, it's not sitting in a
Right.
computer thinking, right? Like by itself. There's no sentience behind it. So in
Mhm.
terms of decision making skills, it's not very good at making decisions, at making a right decision, because
Uh,
it can only give you back information based on what you've given it as a prompt. So in my opinion, it
right.
created a huge industry for prompt engineering
Mhm.
in
Mhm.
like every field. I mean, you can use AI to help in just about every field there is. I used
Mhm.
it in my professional career in cybersecurity, in terms of just so I mean, it's one of those things. It's not in full use yet, but it is one of those things that has potential for analyzing data and
Mhm.
telling you about that data that you fed it. Because like I said, it's bad at like making decisions, but it's great at analyzing information you've given it. So
Mhm.
as long as you give it the right information, and tell it what you expect from it, then you can get better information out of it. But that's the key, is that you have to set up the conditions ahead of time. You have to tell it how you want it
Right.
to act and what you expect it to give you back.
Mhm.
One of the things I'll do when I'm setting up a prompt is I'll say, I want you to act as this. Like sometimes, so for instance, I'll say I've used ChatGPT as I'll say, I want you to act as a general contractor, and I will ask you questions, and I want you to give me advice based on like what a general contractor would tell you in this state. And I'll say, general contractor in Michigan. And I'll say like, hey, I want to do this to this room. What advice do you have? And it will give me advice just like a general contractor would.
Right.
But you have to tell it in advance. This is the role. This is what I'm going to tell you. This is what I want you to give me back.
Right.
And as long as you do that, it'll give you back decent information. The scary part is how, and this is the reason that the godfather of AI just quit Google this week, is because while a lot of companies are being very careful about deploying this, right, and they're setting up workshops and analyzing it, and for now, they basically, most companies have set policies saying, yeah, don't use it right now until we have a chance to look at it. The bad guys aren't doing that. The bad guys have already been using this and iterating with it and learning from it.
Oh yeah, I mean, scammers have already used this in creating scripts.
Yes,
when they call you to, get you out of, graft you out of your money.
Yeah, social engineering scripts. Yep, exactly. So unfortunately, we are just about out of time.
Okay.
Unfortunately, Zoom apparently changed the thing, and now unless I upgrade to Pro, I have a time limit. So
all right. Well, hey,
about to cut off.
It was good talking to you, sir. We're gonna have to
Yes.
make sure we do this more often.
Exactly. Yes, we will for sure. It's good talking to you, Anthony.
Yes, sir. You have a good day, and we'll sign off, and we see everyone later. You have a blessed day.
Till next time.
Yep. Until next time. Intellicide out.